Life speaks. It speaks through struggles and success, through music and messages, the preconceived and the unexpected. Whether you are in the depths of the valley or in the midst of your mountaintop experience, everyone needs to be encouraged from time to time. Here we will share stories of strength, testimonies of triumph, verses of victory, observations, and information meant to touch the heart and uplift the soul, to keep you on your path of purpose and navigate this thing called life with power and authority. This is Andrea L. Hines, and I'm your host for When Life Speaks, here on ALH Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network. I am glad you accepted the invitation to join us tonight. There's something in this broadcast just for you, and if it is going to be a blessing to your life, it will be to someone else as well. So share, tag, start a watch party, and invite someone you know to join us. Then turn down the volume of life and get ready to receive, so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. This is Andrea L. Hines, and I am your host for When Life Speaks, right here on ALH Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network. And yes, I have someone with me this evening. We've been cutting up already, guys. I got to tell the truth. What do they say? Tell the truth and shame the devil. We have been cutting up already. We appreciate you. We thank you for joining us, and just glad that you are here. In case you didn't know, I've got Miss Angela Oliphant with me this evening. Angie, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am well. I am well. Also, I am well. Hey, Bernice, good evening to you. Glad to have you with us tonight. Now, for those of you who do not know, because we're going to jump right in this evening, those of you who do not know, Angie is host for a program called Whole and Beautiful that comes on Friday evenings right here on ALH Broadcasting at 7 p.m. And the other day, we were just having a conversation. We were talking about programming. We were talking about guests and timing and all those kinds of work things. And then we kind of got into conversations about, what are we doing? What are people doing? What is happening in the world? We thought we could solve the whole world order, but it didn't turn out that way. But one thing we did talk about was the fact that both of us with our programs, there's sometimes that there are topics that we approach that we just cannot finish in one segment of a program. And we all often go into a part two or segment two that is then a week away. But because our programs are so short, not short, but close together, we decided that tonight we would try something a little different. Both of us liked the topic. We thought it was something that would be good for us to do. But we're going to start with part one tonight, right here on When Life Speaks. And then we're going to have part two tomorrow and conclude it on Whole and Beautiful. And now you all are going to have to tell us whether this works for you or not, because it was working for us earlier today. So we hope that it will be kind of a new format for you, and that things will be the way that we hope that would still be an encouragement to you and be an inspiration for you and give you some new information. And Angie always talks about information What is it, Angie? What is it you said?
Information, revelation, and change.
Information, revelation, and change. And I'm usually over here telling you when life speaks, you got to speak life. So we're kind of on the same page with that. Hey, Victoria, good evening to you. Glad to have you with us this evening. So tonight, this is the first ever conversation. This is a Carolina conversation.
Yes.
I'm here in North Carolina, and Angie is there in South Carolina, and we're just gonna chat. We're gonna have one of those good old fashioned conversations about something that is really important, I think, and it's about the little foxes. It's about little foxes. Angie, what's the first thing that came into your mind when we were talking about this the other day when we started talking about little foxes?
Little foxes to me was just like those little small things. I thought about the little bugs that's on plants that people really don't see, and they think the plant is so pretty, and then you come back a little bit later and you're like, what happened? Because it was those little bugs that was there that nobody see. I thought about familiarity and being so familiar with somebody to the point you don't notice certain things, and that can be like a small fox where you don't pay attention to other people. You just get so used to everything. And I thought about some other things like taking that pen at work. Like, no, nobody, no, they're not gonna miss the pen.
Right.
And you know you're not supposed to take it, or you get you some copying paper to take.
Get you some.
Paper clips, just little things, and you're like, oh, they're not gonna miss it. They can buy. They always buy more. But those little things like that can turn into big things.
That's right.
So, I started thinking about all the little things that we just kind of let them ride, like the little white lie. Oh, it wasn't that big of a lie. I just said, that part of it wasn't true, but the rest of it was true. And we have to be so careful about the things that we do. Sometimes we just put it as being a part of us, a part of who we are. Oh, that's just me. That's just what I do. But really, that's not. If we're supposed to be serving the Lord, if we say that we are Christ-like, then would Christ do that? Would that line up with his word? So I thought about all these little different things, the little gossip, the little, story that I might tell.
Yeah. And when you were talking about that's going to be really the heartbeat of our conversation tomorrow, because when we begin to justify,
yes,
I had put down for you, justification is an invitation to the little fox.
Yes.
When we start doing that and think, oh, nobody will notice, or no, this will be okay, or well, yeah, and we go through those changes, it's an open door. It's just an open door, and we have to be careful about those open doors. Everything is not bad.
Right.
Everything's not bad. And everything that we look at isn't something that is detrimental to our destiny or that affects our purpose.
Right.
But when we find those things that do, we have to be willing to do something about it, because road rage hasn't decreased. Right. Random shootings have not decreased.
It's not.
When you look on, when things pop up on these reels and internet and things like that, and you sit and you think, what in the world? How did we get to this place? How did we get here? Why are we so mad?
Yes. Why are we so angry?
We're so angry with things and the things that are happening. But we're going to start this evening with something that'll be food for thought in our Carolina conversation. And it says, in today's world, we've become so accepting, even though we know what's right, what's wrong from what's right. Let me say again, in today's world, we've become so accepting, even though we know what's wrong from what's right. We will find ourselves actively engaged in behavior that is not pleasing in his sight. So there are times God will take us back to the root of our walk with him to ignite a fire that may no longer burn as bright now as it did then. Little foxes continue to spoil the vine with unchecked issues we'd like to ignore. But we need to deal with what is real. So there are things we need to explore. And that's what we're going to be doing over the next couple of days. We're going to be exploring those things that invite in the little foxes. We're going to take a look at why they are there in the first place, what we can do about it. And tonight is our night to talk about compromise. We're going to be
Yeah.
talking about the ABCs of compromise, because compromise is definitely a cunning little fox
Yes.
that can blow up into something that, and you think, what in the world happened? You know, this wasn't my intent. I didn't mean for it to be that way. But we have to always remember that the enemy is busy. He's on his job all the time. And instead of drawing closer to God in situations and circumstances that come up, we seem to be going in the opposite
Yes.
direction. We
Like
seem to,
pushing away.
yeah, we seem to be pushing away, and we've got to be able to turn that around. So we find what we how did we decide we were going to define those little foxes? I think we got it here.
The
Who
little
and what?
foxes, yes.
Yeah, who and what are they?
And it's like little things that turn into big things. And things that we were just saying, things that pull us away from God, from the word, from our relationship with God. It's just sometimes you get so complacent
Yeah,
with things. And that fire that you were talking about in the poem, that fire no longer is like burning as bright like it was before. And we just kind of back away from things, and we're not walking in it like we should, or we're not doing like we should. And it's not that we don't know, we know, but it's like, to me, it reminds me of sometimes like being in some people, like in a marriage or in a friendship, where in the beginning of that friendship you were all on fire with it and y'all were having a good time, and then later on, as the years pass, people start taking things for granted, and they just kind of fall back, and they was like, oh, I don't need to do that anymore, I don't need to do this anymore. It's just getting complacent in those areas will cause you to start to compromise in a lot of ways. And she said, oh, okay, she has frozen. Okay, but we were talking about the word of God and our relationship with the Lord. Hi guys. I am waiting to see if Dr. Hines is going to be able to get back in. We're talking about compromise, and we were talking about those little foxes, those things those small things that we just don't really look at and see. Is she back now? Hi.
Let me tell you, that scared me. I had a power surge, which never happens, and everything went out. My internet, my lights, everything. And
Wow.
I thought these little foxes are not
Yes.
happy.
They not happy at all because I we got a thunderstorm going on here. So I was thinking, oh no.
Wow. Oh my goodness, my goodness. Whew. Well, you know what? We know that we have a charge. We have something that anytime
Yes.
things like that happen, I always believe that it is something that needs to get through. And
Yes.
for whatever reason or why it happens, I don't know. But I know that there's something in these ABCs
Yes.
that somebody needs to be reminded of. So
Right.
we're gonna keep going, see where we are. Where were you, Angie?
We were talking about our relationship with God and sometimes how that fire will go like dim.
Right.
And I
Okay.
was saying that it sort of reminds me of like a friendship or even a relationship, having that, and you're all excited in the beginning, and
Hmm.
then as time goes on, you were like, oh, I don't need to do that anymore, or you get complacent with it, and
Hmm.
once you get complacent with it, you start to compromise a lot of things because
Hmm.
it's not new to you anymore.
Hmm.
But in the Word, it tells us that His mercies are new every morning.
Every morning.
So that we can't lose that fire and
Hmm.
that newness, because that's when you start to allow certain things that normally you wouldn't even allow in. You start to allow those things to come in, and you get desensitized to a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
and you just let it ride instead of like in the beginning you was like on it. No, can't do this, or I got to get this in line. You get to the point where you just back off and you just kind of let stuff ride. But as you letting it ride, it's growing and it's getting bigger. And
Hmm.
then we get to those places like we were just talking about. How did we end up here? Where did this anger come from? Where everybody's out here mad at everybody. But it
Yeah.
all started with something small.
Hmm. Hmm. And we tolerate
Yes.
so much now that we never would have in the past.
Right.
Particularly when you look at television,
Yes.
the language that is allowed on television now. I remember when I was young, there was a program called The Smothers Brothers. Now that was way that was beyond back in the day. Okay. But they said a four-letter word and their show was canceled. I mean, they were put off the air. And it wasn't a big four-letter word. It wasn't a
Yeah.
bad four-letter word. It wasn't something that, puts us in a place where you think that, profanity has become a second language. And wasn't like that.
Right.
But it was enough for people to say, no, 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 that's not the standard. We're not having that. We're not
Right.
accepting that. But little by little, just like we've been saying, these things chip away and chip away and chip away at your values. They chip away at your morals. They chip away at whatever standard it is that you have set, personally and particularly as a believer. So did we get to the A? Did we have a chance to talk about
No, we
the okay?
hadn't talked about the A yet.
Let's let's talk about the A. And did you read that scripture, Angie?
I will read it now.
Okay. I feel like I'm playing catch up. I said, what happened when I was gone?
No, I was just trying to like letting everybody know what was going on, and then we were talking about compromise and complacency and little foxes, but I hadn't read the scripture yet. But the first scripture we have is Deuteronomy 5:32, and it says, "Be careful what the Lord your God has commanded you. Do not turn aside to the right or left."
Mhm. Okay.
And then that next scripture we have is Psalms 119:3. And it says, "Joyful are those who do not compromise with evil, and they walk only in his path."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then the other one, and Bernie says, I think we come up with excuses to excuse our unhealthy behaviors and habits. And you're right on target with that, Bernice. You are right on target. Um, when we talk about the A in this issue of compromise, we think about being being accepting, tolerating, being accepting of certain things that we would never tolerate before.
Right.
And I don't know whether we got to it or talked about it or not, but the reasons that um, people do compromise, the reasons that they put themselves in that place is sometimes fear, fear of rejection, fear of criticism. But I think the main one is that issue of wanting to fit in,
Yes, that's a
wanting
big
to
one.
be a part of,
Mm-hmm.
and we forget that we are in this world, but not of this world.
Right.
It is not a part. And when I talk to young people particularly, who are in school and who desperately want to fit in and end up in situations sometimes with bullying and things happening, is to help them to understand you are going to be different,
Right. Right.
are going to be different. You can expect to be different.
Yes. Embrace the difference.
Embrace the difference, embrace your uniqueness, and don't
Yes.
allow people to allow you or put you in a posture of feeling bad about that.
Right.
You're fearfully and wonderfully made. Marvelous are his works. He did not intend for you to be like everybody else. He didn't intend for you to sound like everybody else,
Everybody else.
like
Right.
everybody else. And we have to be able to uh, train our children and teach our children how to fight back the right way,
Yes.
so that bullying is not the issue for them that it is becoming. And I
Right.
don't know how I got on that. I didn't mean to get on that, but
Somebody needed to hear it.
I guess, because it just really, um, sometimes I think, but it is a part of that. It is an outgrowth of this issue of compromise.
Right.
It is an outgrowth of that. And sometimes, like you said, Angie, it is those little things that we let pass, those little things that we let get by us, that set us up
Yes.
for bigger things that are really much more detrimental to us than that first little fox, that we saw,
Right.
or that we had to deal with. So the other one, accepting in 1 Thessalonians 5:22, which is a scripture that we seem to have forgotten. I don't know whether it's not in anybody's Bible anymore. It's still in mine. Hopefully it's still in yours, but you bring it up and people kind of go, like, I don't even want to hear that. I don't even want to deal with that. But that is abstain from all appearance of evil.
Yes. Yes. A lot of people, they, it's like you were saying, they don't want to hear that, because they try to justify everything, like we'll be talking about tomorrow. But yeah, it's there for a reason. That scripture is there for us to see. And if it appears, even with the appearance of evil, it's like it goes into so many different things, but it causes us to be accountable and to
Yeah,
deal with us. And
right.
I think that's why a lot of people kind of like push away from it, because they don't want the accountability of that. Then they'll go into, like we were talking about earlier, they'll start going into the justification of why. But it's there. It's still in my Bible too. So.
And I want to touch on something else, and I hope that our listeners will comment on it. The issue of appearance, period, not the appearance of evil, because I don't think that people look at it as the appearance of evil. That's something a little different.
Yes.
But appearance, period.
Yeah.
Um, we will compromise sometimes in our dress, um,
Yes.
because we want to fit in.
Yes.
We don't look at our appearance in terms of what is right for you, what's right for your body type, what is right that will make you look, that will enhance your look.
Right.
That's what I want to say, enhance your look. Just because they made it and just because you can buy it
Right.
does not mean that you should wear it.
Wear it.
It sometimes sends a compromising message.
Yes.
It sometimes will put you in a place where you don't want to be. It puts you in situations that you may not be mature enough or ready to handle.
And that is true. That's true. I had to learn that, even with myself, because growing up, like we were talking about, you want to fit in, you want to fit in, but we have to realize that when we what we're wearing, it's like we that's a representation of me. That my appearance is a representation of who I am. So I don't have to go with the fad and what's going on right now and what they're wearing right now. I need to wear something that's going to fit like my personality and what do I want to display. This one guy that we saw not too long ago, and it's something that we're talking about. This he came in where I was working at the time as a teller at the time, but he came in and he was dressed really nice, and everybody was like, "Man, because they were trying to figure out where does he work." So they asked the young man where he works at, and he said, "I work here." And they said, "Where?" Because they're thinking he's like downtown, in the office at the top and
Right.
stuff. He said, "No, I work in the call center." And they were like, "Well," and one girl told him, she was like, "Well, why are you dressed like that? You work in the call center. Ain't nobody gonna see you." And they just went on and on and on. But he was like, "No, I was told to dress for where I want to be, not where I am right now." And
Exactly.
he said, "I don't want to stay in the call center. I want to go higher than this."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Yes," because your mindset changes, whether people believe it or not. It changes when you put on different clothes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Your posture will change. You carry yourself different. Because I was looking at that today. Yesterday, we had photos that we had to take at work. So everybody was dressed up. Everybody's makeup was good. Everybody was good. But then today, because they're allowing us to wear jeans as long as we wear our logo wear and stuff. Today I didn't dress up. I put my jeans on and my logo wear, my sneakers, and I was just walking around and I was like, "You walked different yesterday.
Hmm.
You carried yourself a little bit different yesterday because you had on your I still had to wear logo wear, but I had a slacks on and and the nice shoe." I was like, "I might need to be changing this up and just wear these jeans on Friday."
Now I got two stories to tell you about that, but first I want to say this: you use the word representation, and
Yes.
it's not just a representation of who you are; it is a
Right.
representation of your home, and
Yes.
it is also a representation of who you say you are as a believer.
Oh yeah. That is true.
And we have to take that representation into account. I
Yes.
think that young man who said it's about where I want to go, that's something that my father used to say to me. He used to say, if you when you feel your worst, look your best, because
Yes.
it does change your posture and it does change your attitude and it just does change the way that you feel, and
Right.
you have to be comfortable with how you feel. You can't go by where everybody else is. And here are two examples of that. I'm from originally from Washington, D.C. When I moved here to North Carolina, I was still working for the same company. I was working for IBM. I had an outfit which was one of my favorite outfits, and it was a pair of off-white linen pants. I had an army green colored linen jacket, had on my gold jewelry, and had some flats, nice gold mesh flats. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I wore that to the corporate office in DC where I worked, and they said, "Oh, you dressed down today."
Mm.
I wore that same office, outfit to the office here in North Carolina, and they said, "Why did you dress up today?"
Yes.
You see?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the culture,
Yes.
where you are, and all of that can make a difference. But if I wasn't comfortable with me, I could have been totally thrown
Yes.
in either venue, in either scenario.
And
So
that is true.
we have to be, you got to know what looks good on you, what looks right on you, how to enhance your appearance. Just like when people will come to you and say, "I bet you pray." You ever had that happen? Some random person will come up to you and say, "I bet you pray."
Yeah. They.
And ask yourself, what is it about me?
Yeah.
What is it about my appearance right now that would let somebody know or even suggest to them
Yes. That
that
I
I
pray.
represent God?
Yeah. Because that has happened like a lot, and then even at work, it happened. I wouldn't even tell anybody that I was a Christian. I never said anything. I never broadcast anything. I was just coming to do my work. And my supervisor at the time, somebody was saying something, and they had used some profanity with that, and she pulled up to the side and she was like, "You don't say that around her." And I was like, "What is she talking about?" But she was like, "Don't say that around her. Angela is a Christian. She loved the Lord. Don't be talking like that around her." And I was like, "How you know? I ain't say nothing to you."
Yeah, yeah.
I never said anything to anybody, but then it's like if they had situations and circumstances that were going on, they was like, "Well, would you pray?" And I was like, "How you know I pray?"
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I understand what you're saying, because the appearance, it comes out and it shows, and
Mm-hmm.
we pick up.
And I'm not to suggest that we go back to long skirts
Right.
and no makeup and no earrings, anything like that. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
And I don't believe that people should be judged on their appearance, but
Right.
people do. They
They
do
do.
judge you on your appearance, and that's something that you can't stop and you can't really get away from. But we have to be aware of it. It's like, we're saying in the poem in the beginning, there's some things that are just real. And there's some things that we have to know how to confront
Yes.
and know how to deal within that. So, hi, Naikayata. Good evening to you. Glad to have you. And Lynn, glad to have you with us this evening as well. You all jump in the conversation. You too, Victoria and Bernice. Anything that you want to say, just kind of put it in the chat and put it in the comments. These are easy targets for compromise, the ABCs of
Yes.
compromise that we're talking about this evening. And for the B, we have behavior.
Yes.
Behavior. And that's an easy one for the little foxes to get into. Oh
Yes,
my
it is.
goodness. Oh my goodness.
Oh, it is. It really is. Because I have one thing. Like Karen, there, because we talk to her a lot. Karen is my friend, y'all. I love her. I love my friend. But
Woman
we've
of
been friends.
God. Is a woman of God. I tell you, she knows the word.
She does. And the one thing that she was saying, was that how you don't need to react to a lot of things. You need to be able to respond, and that stuck with me because I was like, when you certain things come at you, you're really quick to react and jump in there, and then later on you was like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, oh, I shouldn't have did that. But she was saying when you take the time to respond, you're gonna think about it before
Right.
you let something flow out of your mouth, before you do something in that situation. So that stuck with me for years. So I was like, I gotta pay attention, because my behavior, that those little foxes will get in there, and you they be big foxes by the time you finish.
And it, and something else you said, about you didn't have to tell anybody. It's not necessarily an announcement. You don't have
Right,
to make the announcement. You don't have
right.
to say, well, I'm a Christian, or I don't believe in that, or I don't believe in that. You simply conduct yourself in a
Right.
manner that people will know, they will understand, they will see it in you.
Yes.
And we're always saying, I want people to see the Christ in me. Well, it's going to be real hard for them to see the Christ in you when there's absolutely nothing Christ-like about the behavior
Yes.
you are exhibiting.
Right.
Like I had said, it's the God in you. The God in you, and you were saying it yourself, Angie, is showing through you,
Yes.
emanating from you, from
So
you. And
yeah.
that affects what you're doing. It affects what you're saying. How many times have you been put in a position to go somewhere because everybody else was going?
Yeah. And it's
I
like,
was I was in that situation one time, and I had someone come up to me and say, "You don't belong here."
wow.
Now, to me, I was looking like everybody else was looking, but apparently not. And they were right. I had
Yeah.
no business being there.
Yeah.
No
Cause
business
it
being there. But my friend was going. That was my buddy, my road dog. And that she wanted to go there, and I said, "Well, okay, sure, I'll go with you." And I
yeah.
got there, and somebody came up to me and told me that, and I thought, "Wow, wow, they are absolutely right. I don't belong here." So I don't know whether I was looking crazy or what,
But
but
a lot of people do.
wasn't working.
They will pick up on it.
Yeah,
They pick up on it quick.
yeah.
And sometimes we don't think that they do, but sometimes it's the person that's not even like a Christian, or that person is not even really serving the Lord. And they be like, they don't belong over here.
Yep,
It's
absolutely.
and you're like, wow, okay.
And I learned. I don't have to go everywhere. I don't have to be in every place. And it's okay to just say no.
Yes,
I don't have to say no, girl, because I go to church and I.
right. You
Uh-uh.
can just say no. No is a complete
Say no.
sentence.
It's good. It's good to just say that. Getting into our C, because I do want to hit on this before we go tonight. Um, Conversation. I
Yes.
think a lot of compromise can be found in our conversation. Angie, when you talked about people coming into a room um, and saying, well, you can't say that around her, she's a Christian. Or I've had other instances where somebody will say something and they'll go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know you were there. I didn't know you were standing there." And there was a time that used to bother me. And there
Yeah.
was a time that I would respond and say, "Oh no, girl, that's okay." But it's not okay.
Right.
It's a fox.
Yes, it is.
It's a
Because it
little
will pull
fox.
you in.
It will pull you in quickly. And before you know it, something will slip one day and you'll think, ooh,
Yeah.
where'd that come from? How
Yes.
did that happen? Didn't mean to say that, and we have to be careful of those things,
We
as
do.
small as they seem to be. The
Yeah.
fact that somebody would recognize the God in you enough to want to correct their behavior
Right.
rather than compromise your
Yours.
behavior. That's a high five and a star and all those other good things.
Yes.
That's good news. That's good news. And sometimes because we want to fit in so badly, we want to act like it's no big thing. We want to
Yeah.
act like doesn't bother us. We want to act like no, that's okay. I'm with the group. No,
Yeah.
not really.
Not really. And it's like, and it's something that you say that how, because people do, even as being a Christian, even as being, that person that's following Christ. And so we are so quick to say, oh, that didn't bother me. Y'all just go ahead on. And then they keep doing it and they get comfortable where they're not trying to not say it around you or not pull you into the conversation. And then you get in there, and like we were saying before you know it, it's a big thing, and you're wondering where in the world did that happen. It started back when you said, "Oh, that's okay. Y'all don't have
Exactly.
to." Just that little. It's okay. Go ahead. But it's not okay, and we have to realize that because we can get pulled in so easy with different conversations that we don't even really need to be a part of the conversation.
No.
And it's like I don't want to hear it, and I don't want to participate in it.
And
So,
it's fine to walk away, and it's
yeah,
fine to shut down, and it's fine to say, okay, or just say nothing, particularly if it happens a lot at work. So if you're in a lunchroom situation or
right.
something like that, you can remove yourself.
You can.
You can remove yourself so that you are not a part of, or nobody thinks you are a part
Are
of
right.
that conversation. That's that abstaining from the appearance.
Yes,
'Cause people will lump you with whatever group you happen to be with if you are not careful.
they will. I had that happen like not too long ago where somebody brought up a topic. They wanted to talk, but they wanted to talk about this person. So they was going in, and I was like, okay, let me just switch the conversation. So I switched and started talking about something else, and they just kind of looked at me, and we just kept talking about the other stuff. And then the other person, they was like, well, what did she say? What was she talking about? And I was like, it ain't it's not that we're talking about this right now. I just kept talking about what I want to talk about.
Changing the subject.
So they didn't we didn't even go there because I was like, I cannot do this today. We're not gonna do this today. I was
You might do
like,
this today, but I'm not gonna do this
it's
today.
like we're not going down this road. Let's switch this up altogether.
But like I had to say, silence is golden. Girl, you are absolutely right. And there's nothing wrong with it. And sometimes that's where to keep yourself out of a place of compromise.
Yes.
Keep yourself from falling prey to some of these little foxes that fall on, because these ABCs cover a good bit of ground.
It does.
And it's something that we need to make sure that we are aware of, like we said in the beginning, and make sure that we are not putting ourselves in positions where we do compromise.
Right.
And I think that is a good place for us to end. It's almost it is 7:45, so we've run out of time. But I want to read one last thing to you. And it says, we can't flirt with the things of the world and think that it's okay. We can't fulfill our fleshly desires and just go about our day thinking God won't notice, or that he's somewhere asleep. And all the seeds of compromise sown, we won't someday reap a harvest that we don't want to have. How sad. But it wouldn't have to be if you'd make a decision and then declare, there'll be no compromise in me. So
Wow.
we put that little fox to bed tonight. There'll be no
Yes.
compromise in me. No compromise
Yes. No
in me.
compromise in me.
That is it. That is it. I hope everybody enjoyed this part one tonight. We're going to finish up part two. So, look, if you don't usually come into Angie's show at 7 p.m. on Friday nights, you want to come in tomorrow because you want to get the end of these tips and tools about these little foxes because we
Yes.
can't afford to have these little foxes spoiling the vine and getting in the way. And tomorrow we're going to be talking about some of those justifications that we mentioned today because they are invitations to the little foxes, and we are not trying to invite them in. No,
No.
they have got to go by any means necessary.
Yes.
We're not going to let them in the vineyard. They cannot spoil the
We're
vine.
putting up our fence and making it close.
That is it. That is it. Look, guys, share. Tell somebody about the programs. Tell somebody about this Carolina conversation we are having this week. I thank you for being with me here at When Life Speaks. And you have to be here tomorrow at 7 p.m. on Whole and Beautiful. That Angie's hosting her show. And we're going to continue with this Carolina conversation on these little foxes. But
Yes.
that is it for tonight. Thank you for being here. I am glad you decided to turn down the volume of life and be ready to receive so that when life speaks, you'll speak life.
Right.
Thank you, Angie. See you tomorrow night.
See ya.
Everyone.